Like all your friends could say to you, oh my God, I'm left-handed. I would totally use that site if you made it. And you start this business. And then it turns out nobody uses your site.
What's your criteria for an acquisition? Like if you could simply put it, and keep in mind that Omid and I are rookies, we're beginners.
Let's divide it into two categories. One is a business you could buy, and the other is a business you could start. So like, let's say, oh, I'm going to start a Twitter for, left-handed people. So because there's 50 million left-handed people in the US, so there must be a big market. So the problem with a startup, and the reason why there's a saying 90% of startups fail, is because you don't actually know if there's going to be demand until after you start the business. Like all your friends could say to you, oh my God, I'm left-handed. I would totally use that site if you made it. And then you go out and you raise money like, oh, everybody says they would use this site. And so all the VCs give you a check and you start this business. And then it turns out nobody uses your site.
The best example of this is Quibi. Do you remember Quibi, the vertical streaming platform? They tried to be Netflix. They filmed all of this stuff on vertical. I think they raised 100 million or something insane.
Yeah, Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Yeah,
and a bunch of big guys.
And it looked like it was going to, and they had Christopher Nolan in limited series, like real A-list actors. And no one said, we don't want to watch 2 hours on vertical. It's annoying.
So how do you find out if there is demand? Like, let's say you are going to go down the starting of the business. Because I know you said you always start businesses of something you have like domain knowledge in. So how would you validate the demand?
I like to think of it as inheriting demand. So for instance, I used to write for the Wall Street Journal. I used to write for Yahoo Finance. I know there's demand out there for people who want good information about stocks. And I know some people charge for it and some people don't. So I knew there was already demand and I already had a big audience from social media. So I was able to inherit the demand of an industry I knew there was a lot of demand in. And I felt I was unique because I had sort of a unique social media group as opposed to many people in investing. So I was able to start that company. Or when I made websites for a living, and my first company was making websites for like American Express and Warner Brothers and all the record labels I made websites for. Yeah. And I knew there was a demand because people would I wouldn't hire people unless somebody hired me. So with AmericanExpress.com, it was just me doing the site, and finally it was just too busy, and so I hired somebody. Service businesses and product business. With a service business, like, oh, I'm going to make a website for somebody, you don't have to hire people until there's demand. So that's one way to test demand. Now, what I could have done, which I didn't do because I didn't know anything about business, is that I could have converted it into a product company. I could have said, oh, I'm making the software that's making the websites, but I didn't really understand that product businesses are valued for like 1,000 times earnings versus service companies are valued for like 6 times earnings. So that's a big difference. So I had to be like profitable as opposed to product companies don't always have to be profitable.
And there's also, I don't know if you've done this, James. I've launched products before where you just run Facebook ads to a landing page, and then at checkout you just refund everybody their money, or you just block the payment. And you have criteria going into it, and you spend maybe $1,000, $2,000 on some ads and some creative, and you're just like, whatever. Like,
take my course on picking up women or men or whatever. And but then you also have another one here. Take my course on math, or here's another one. Take my course on poker, how to play the best poker. And then you see where people click, and like you said, you shut down. That's a good way to test demand. And then you shut down the other services that there is no demand for. I did that with the title of Choose Yourself. I had like 5 different titles I was choosing between, and I put Facebook ads up for each title. And Choose Yourself got like 80%